Hi, everyone who's just jumping on. It is Jillian here. Welcome, welcome. We're just going to give it a few more minutes, and I'd love if you guys could just let me know if you can find your chat box, and just type in it and let me know that you can hear me and that you can see me okay and that sort of thing. Um, we're just going to hang out for a few more minutes and wait for a few more people to show up. Hi, guys. Hi, Candace. Hi. Is it Amin? I mean, that's pretty. Um, Yeah, and if I can ask you to keep yourself muted and you can keep your cameras off, then the way that we'll interact is in the chat box. Hello. Hi, Candace. Okay, good. Candace, can you hear and see okay? Let me know. And we're just going to hang out still for a little bit more until people get here. Yes, I can. Okay, perfect. How are your mornings? How's the morning going so far? Is it raining where you are? Oops, there goes my coffee. It rained like all night here. And the sun came out for a little bit and now it seems like it's raining again, which isn't the best. My daughter's playing outside with our babysitter, so I'm sure that I might hear some stomping of feet in a few minutes. Raining a little bit here. It's cloudy. Yeah, the weather is like different every single day these days. Yesterday it was so nice and sunny, and today not so much, but that's okay. So I'm gonna keep the chat box open like basically the whole time. So if you guys have questions, or I'll ask you some questions as we go through, feel free to put it there or answer there. We'll try to keep things interactive as much as possible. So how about this? While we're waiting for a few more minutes, let me know, what is your favorite thing to do when you are not momming? So if you had like, and I don't mean like in your very rare free time now, I mean like in general, if you had totally unlimited free time, what's your favorite thing to do? Let me know in the chat box. Mine is hiking. I love it so much. And it's like hiking season here, I would say, in Toronto. The weather is like perfect for that because it's not too hot, it's not too cold. The leaves are beautiful. So yeah, I'm definitely in my element now with that. We'll just take a few more minutes, guys. What else? If I can't go out hiking, sometimes I will tell my husband that I'm going groceries and going to get groceries, which I obviously have to come home with. But I'll say like, oh, the lineup was just so long. When meanwhile, I actually went, for 30 minutes and just like walked around somewhere outside in a park or whatever, because it's just, otherwise it's hard to get that time, and I need it for my mental health. That is something that I've learned kind of like the hard way. What are the things that I need? And that is definitely one of them. So yeah, what time is it? 11:34. Let's wait. We'll wait till like 11:35 sort of thing, if that's okay with you guys. I like going for long walks in parks or conservation areas, especially. Yeah, especially beside lakes. Water is something, there's something about it that is just so peaceful and calming, you know what I mean? And yeah, I totally agree with you on that. If there's water, I'm all over it. And even if like it doesn't have to be hot, like it doesn't have to be like a hot beach. It could be now. Like I think the water and the beachfront and stuff is just as nice. Okay. I'm thinking it's 11:35. People are still kind of straggling in, and I realize that this started at a weird time for some people. The reason is because I sometimes it goes a little bit longer if people have a lot of questions and we're just chatting at the end, and I wanted to make sure that we didn't go past 1 o'clock because the actual webinar training itself is about 1 hour. So if you have to leave, just let me know, type it in the box so at least I know where you're at. And yeah, so let's start. Let's start. I'm going to turn my camera off as well, just because then you don't have to look at me. You can look at the slides. Sound good? But I've got the chat box still open. Okay. It's just off to the side here. So yeah. Okay. Let me turn off my camera and we will do this. All right. So welcome you guys to the 3 critical concepts you need to know to overcome anxiety. And I've sort of talked about this before, but for those of you that are on that don't know, a lot of the moms that I work with are struggling with stress and overwhelm and anxiety. And that is why this training and a lot of the work that I do and the programs that I offer are sort of geared towards that. But the thing that I want you to remember is for this talk, with everything that we say, and for all of the program stuff and everything like that, basically, everything is good, not just for anxiety, but good for everything, for emotional resilience, for being able to deal with tough feelings that are really intense and not have them totally throw off your entire day, for having like a more stable mood and not big ups and downs, for feeling more like you're able to sort of calmly respond to things rather than react to things. That's really important because it affects our relationships, right? And it affects our parenting and stuff like that. So being able to respond instead of react is a big one. So like I said, we're talking about this in terms of anxiety, but it's really about all of these great things. So I just see a few more people are popping on, and I just wanted to kindly ask you and remind you, please make sure that you're on mute and that your camera's off. My camera's off too, just so we can all have a good, smooth training. And then also for those who just joined, hi everyone. We literally just started. There's a chat box that you can open, and I'm going to be watching that. So I'll ask you questions from time to time. So please open it and respond, and like, let's make this as interactive as possible. And I'm also going to be watching. So if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them in real time too. Okay. Okay. Let's do this. So here's the thing is, I'm putting this slide up to just say it's time to focus, because I know firsthand that when you're a mom and maybe you are doing some homeschooling now, or maybe you're just home on mat leave with your baby, or some people I know are even trying to watch this from work, it's really hard to focus. I totally get it. I actually just read this article on multitasking and how it basically ruins everything that we're trying to do, and it makes us just feel more overwhelmed. And here we are now at this webinar that is literally the last one of the year, and we're here to learn things that are important to us. So if you can, the best that you can, try to focus, see if you can maybe turn the volume off on your phone, or like turn it over so you're not seeing Facebook notifications and stuff like that, and see if you can just really give yourself this 1 hour to see what you can learn and feel better, help yourself feel better. Okay. That's my sort of encouragement for you guys. And I didn't really advertise this, but I do have a bonus for you guys. It's a little gift. And this is because everything I'm going to share with you today is equally important. And it's really important in understanding how to overcome your anxiety that you stay to the end of this web class so you can get the full picture and all the tips that I'm going to share. So basically, I'm going to trade you. Close to the end of the webinar, I will post a link in the chat where you can download this guide for free right away. That's called How to Not Be Angry Mom, a guide to managing anger, frustration, and blow-ups so that you can show up as the mom that you want to be. And the irony is I feel like a lot of us can really relate to this. Stress levels are really high right now with all of this second wave of COVID, like kids maybe going to daycare, maybe not, going to school, but then getting a sniffle and getting sent home. And it's such a stressful time. So I really think it's so great that you're here and that you are able to learn this stuff. And if you can stay to the end, then I will send you that guide as well, which I know will be helpful. It's helpful for me to remember these things. And so I'm sure that it will be helpful for you guys as well. Okay, so I'm going to also make you a promise, which I don't do that often. But today I'm going to show you how you can shift away from feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, anxious, stressed, moody, all of those things, to feeling in control, confident, and calm with your children so that you can be the mother that you know you are deep down and show up in the way that you always thought that you would. Okay? And more specifically, you're going to learn why what you've been doing, if you have been for a long time, to not be more anxious or not be so stressed, why those things haven't worked that well, or potentially have even been making you feel worse, maybe made you feel more anxious. And so I'm going to walk you through what doesn't work and what does, okay? So I want to invite you guys to be able to just close your eyes. Let's just all arrive here for a minute and just give yourself a chance to kind of sink in to this moment right now. We're all here together. Close your eyes. Slow down. And now see if you can imagine the feeling about being able to stop Googling, stop doing all the trial and error, stop reading and trying all of these different things to find out what's wrong with you, why do you feel this way, what can you do to feel better. Imagine sort of being able to just skip that and just do what works for your mental and emotional well-being. So for me, I know when I learned the process that I'm going to share with you today, it changed my life and it changes the lives of my clients that I work with, my private clients. And I know that it will help you with yours too. So let me know in the chat, you guys. We're going to start using the chat, keeping this interactive and live, remember. Let me know in the chat if that sounds good, if that sort of knowing what doesn't work, what works, and being more empowered that way sounds like a good idea for you and something that would be helpful. Let me know. I'm watching the chat now. For those of you, people are just sort of trickling in. For those of you that just came, everyone's on mute. That's awesome. Please do me a favor and just keep yourself on mute and then use the chat box. And at the very end, if anyone wants to stay, you're welcome to pop your video and sound on and we can have like a more informal chat at the end, okay? Okay. So, guys, I haven't seen many answers. Let me know in the chat. Are you here? How does that sound? We're all good? Yeah. For those who just joined, sometimes the chat is it's like on the screen, it looks just like a 3 little dots and says more underneath, and then you can open the chat box there usually. Sounds good. Okay. All right. Okay. So tell me if any of this sounds familiar for you. It's usually different for everyone, but um have you tried apps, yoga classes, deep breathing, and you're still feeling anxious or still not feeling great with your mood? Maybe you've done some therapy in the past, but you're not sure that it worked, or you're kind of still feeling the same, or maybe it felt okay at the time, but you're sort of back to where you were. Maybe you talk to your doctor about medication, but you don't really want to take it. Maybe are you doing research online and you're Googling what can you do to get rid of anxiety or help your mood, or what's wrong with you, or are you unsure about how to treat your anxiety in a way that actually gets to the source rather than just going on medication and stuff like that? And just to mention, because I do bring up medication a lot, it's a hot topic. There's no judgment here about if you are on it or if you would like to try it. It's just that a lot of the moms that I work with are thinking about it or have been prescribed it, but they're concerned that it is not getting to the root cause and that it's sort of like a band-aid solution. So I'm here to just address that and let you know about what does work to get to the source that is not a band-aid solution. Okay. Um, and the last question is, do you feel like you will always have to live like this? Or what I hear a lot is that I'm just an anxious person, or I'm always going to be sort of more sad, or whatever it is. Um, does any of that sound like you guys? Can you relate to any of that? Let me know. I'm still watching the comments, you guys. So use that comment box. Let me know if any of those things resonate with you, and if any of them specifically do, pop that in too, and then we can even talk about that a little bit more specifically. Sorry guys, I'm getting like email notifications. Okay, let's keep going, but I'm going to watch the chat. So I'm seeing a few answers. Yes, it resonates. Yes. Yeah, I feel like I will always have anxiety. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's something I hear a lot. Constantly feeling sad. Yeah. So, oops, sorry guys. One thing I also forgot to mention in terms of mute is if you don't want me to read it out loud, then like just put on stuff that you are okay with me sort of reading out, because I might just sort of like read things out quickly and I without realizing that you don't want me to. Okay. What else? So here's the thing is, if you are nodding your head to any of that, which it sounds like a lot of you are, then here's the thing. It's obviously I'm not watching you. I've just done or felt those things personally myself. And I promise that whatever you're doing and it's not working, it's not your fault. It is really hard these days to know who is right and who to trust. And if you feel anything like I did back when I had anxiety, I would have done basically anything to get rid of it, except that it sort of felt like nothing really worked. So the real issue is that 99% of approaches to treat anxiety are not really effective for more than either a few minutes or a few days. And then what happens is when you continue to research different options and try things over and over again, it actually makes the problem worse. You can actually become more anxious in that process of trying to overcome it by trying all these different things and focusing on it. And then that leads you to feel even more hopeless and bad. So, and then the worst thing is then you feel like maybe there's something wrong with you, that you're just an anxious person. So also, I'm still watching the comments, guys. Let me know in the comments if any of that sounds familiar to you, if any of you guys are experiencing any of that, the researching, the trying different things. Let me know how that is for you, if any of that resonates. There's still a few people trickling in, so just for the people who are joining, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please just keep yourself on mute and feel free to use the chat box. I'm watching it and we're just having kind of like a conversation and keeping this sort of live and interactive. So yeah, somebody's saying I keep researching different things to see what works. Yeah, and the problem is like some level of researching is useful, but there's sort of like a tipping point where it actually can backfire and make us feel worse, which is something I work with a lot of people on. So, and that's another reason why we're running this webinar, is because I want to save you that time. I want to sort of explain things to you from a scientific perspective so that we can get some answers. Okay, and save you that time. And frankly, I don't think any moms here actually have a lot of time, right? So I'm going to give you an example and sort of share my story. So when I was in the peak of my anxiety, I was juggling a lot of balls in the air, which I'm sure a lot of you are now. At this point, though, I was working 2 jobs. I was trying to balance family life, my relationship, and a lot of the stuff that I was dealing with was brand new to me. So I had a lot of unknown and a lot of uncertainty. I didn't know what I was doing with things, and I wasn't confident in how things might turn out. So the more that I didn't know about something and things at one time, the more I worried. Then the busier I got, the more my self-care fell off. So I would skip my yoga classes or not get to the gym. I was too tired or too busy. I would tell my therapist that I couldn't come that week, and then my therapy just fell off the radar completely. I stopped diffusing my essential oils and listening to my meditation app. And then I found myself with physical symptoms of anxiety. And this is a big deal because I hear about this a lot, and I don't think people realize, and I also didn't at the time, that anxiety causes physical symptoms too. So I started having trouble falling asleep, just like basically I was wired and tired all of the time. My stomach would start to hurt to the point where sometimes I felt like I had heartburn, or I thought maybe I was getting an ulcer. I even got checked for that one time and I didn't. So I just had this sort of like random phantom stomach pain. I had like a constant buzz feeling, almost like I had drank 5 cups of coffee, except for that I was still tired. Um, So then when I couldn't sleep, then I would be up all night, and that's me on the computer watching Netflix or doing more work or maybe scrolling social media, or maybe then Googling and researching ways to go to sleep or how to get rid of anxiety. And you can see how this is a spiral, right? And this is a cycle. I would find myself right back where I was before, just in the depths of full-blown anxiety and low mood and sort of irritability up and down. And it was controlling my mind. It was now affecting my body, and it was affecting my life. And all of my things, my therapy, my meditation apps, books, self-help books, they were not making me feel better anymore. I couldn't stick to them, for one thing, so that was an issue. But also their effect was temporary. And as soon as I stopped, I was basically felt like I was drowning in anxiety again. And I was searching for another solution. And then I felt like a failure. Why did I always come back to this place, even though I had felt like I had done everything I was supposed to do? Even though the problem was actually the things I was doing and the way that I was doing them, not me, I was not the problem, but I didn't realize that, and I still felt broken. So, guys, after I sort of vulnerably shared my own struggle with this, can you tell me in the comments, let me know that I'm not completely alone with any of this stuff, with having trouble sleeping or having sort of physical effects of anxiety, just trying to do too much at once, struggling with not knowing, like uncertainty. And right now, oh my gosh, uncertainty is like the name of the game. Sadly, everything is uncertain right now with, back to school and back to daycare and COVID. It's basically, I think, been one of the most uncertain years for everyone. And then you add that on to just like regular stuff that's going on in life and things that you don't know. And it just makes it that much harder. So guys, yeah, let me know in the comments. Let me know if any of what I just shared with you sounds familiar, that anxiety seems manageable sort of at one point, but then when you get busier or something changes, then it hits you hard. Then all of a sudden it's not so manageable anymore and it's starting to interfere. Yeah, so somebody's sharing that sometimes there's trouble sleeping. Yeah, it's really hard to wind down when your mind is racing, right? It's really hard to shut it off. So, this is the life. I didn't want this life for myself. And if you guys relate in any way to this example, then I'm sure that this is not really the life that you're envisioning for yourself either. And that's why I'm really glad that we're all here together and you're here today for this. So, what I'm going to share with you is basically the fastest and simplest way to wake up with more energy because you actually are able to quiet your mind and get some rest. Yay! That's a big deal for moms. You will be able to stop thinking about all the bad things that might happen and replaying all the different scenarios in your mind and finally get out of your head so you can be more present with your babies. And you'll finally feel more calm, in control of things, and have less emotional ups and downs that affect the people around you. So I'm still watching the comments, guys. Let me know in the comments which one of those scenarios is the one that you really want. Like, why did you, out of all of those, or maybe there's a different reason, but why did you show up today? Is it because you want to have more energy? Is it because you just can't stop your mind from thinking? Maybe you just want to have less like emotional ups and downs and improve your relationships. Let me know which one of those resonates with you guys. And I'm still watching the comments, guys, as they roll in. So even though I'm still talking, so feel free to just keep on sharing. Okay. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit more formally of who I am. So I've worked in the mental health field for almost 20 years, unbelievably so. I started in child welfare, working with attachment and childhood trauma, which was challenging. And then I worked in the psychiatry unit at a world-class teaching hospital. And there I did therapy with parents and children. And all of this on the side, I started a health and wellness business doing nutrition and fitness coaching. I became a CrossFit coach. I competed in CrossFit competitions. I also was a pre and postnatal fitness trainer. And over the course of my career, I'm really lucky. I've been trained by some really prominent and smart people in the field. So Dr. Dan Siegel, I'm not sure if you guys know him. He is the author of a ton of books, but really important parenting books that I recommend all the time, like Parenting from the Inside Out or No Drama Discipline. So I'm not sure if you guys have heard of him. Luckily, I've trained with him 3 times, which is super cool. Dr. Zindel Siegel, he is the person who trained me, and he's also one of the developers of mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, which is rapidly turning into one of the most effective treatments for anxiety, depression, mood, and emotions. So that's pretty cool. So that's kind of like my fancy credentials, but also personally, I've struggled with anxiety so badly that I developed insomnia. Like I told you, had stomach aches that actually once had me hospitalized. And it was so bad that it just broke my belief in myself. I lost all my confidence. I was just so stressed and totally overwhelmed. Um, then new motherhood was a huge challenge for me because I had to learn everything on very little sleep and with very little support. And when I was at my most vulnerable during that time, I had to sort of draw on everything that I had left in me to use the skills and the knowledge that I had to make sure that the anxiety that I had in the past didn't come back. So I was lucky in the sense that I already had the skills and the tools to be able to not fall back into anxiety once I was a mom. And that's what I want for you guys, is to be able to know what you need to know and get to things now from the root cause and from the source, so that you are not um, constantly struggling this for your entire motherhood. Okay. um like sometimes I still worry about little things or notice my thoughts starting to go in an unhealthy direction, of course, but I know what to do about it now to make sure it doesn't turn into anxiety again. Okay. So here's a little collage of me. This was me about between 5 to 10 years ago when I was struggling with anxiety the most. And I looked super functional on the outside. I was trying my best to show the world that I could do it all. So you can see, what was what happened here? You can see, like, I was doing presentations to kids. I was oh my gosh, why does this keep moving around on me? I was a presenter at a fertility conference at Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto. I was competing in CrossFit. I got my master's degree part-time. I was not professionally, but competitively dragon boating, and that was me at the Canada Nationals there at the back. And then, of course, I was trying to spend time with family and be a good daughter and have those, happy and quality interactions that we want. So I was doing a lot, but inside I was falling apart. I wasn't sleeping. I was on the go all the time. I literally could not slow down or shut off my mind, even when I did have a chance. And there was one time where I had to cancel showing up to my mother's birthday dinner with all my family there. And if you guys are anything like me, it's hard to have a time to get together with family as it is. So this was important. And I couldn't go because I was just too tired. I literally was not functioning. And all I could think about was all the things I had to do instead. And just could not cope with the idea of being social with people. Needless to say, she was mad, disappointed, let down. All my family was like, where is she? What is wrong with her? Why can't she show up for important things like this? They didn't understand what anxiety was doing to me on the inside. And then I was mad at myself. I felt like I was turning into that person that people couldn't rely on and that they would eventually stop reaching out to me at all. So guys, comments again, let me know. Does anyone else feel like that? Let me know if you're struggling with any of the same thing or something similar, like you're trying maybe as a mom to do everything perfectly and worrying what will happen if you didn't do something perfectly, worrying about bad things happening, even if they're small. And sometimes it's so much that it stops you from doing things, like stops you from going out. And then you have guilt for missing things or a mind that doesn't stop. So just kind of like goes on, right? Let me know in the comments if any of that sounds familiar to you. Having another sip of my coffee. How you guys doing? You still with me here? We're almost at the big concepts. So here's the thing, is that there I was feeling overwhelmed, out of control, ashamed, and I decided not anymore. After that incident with my mom's birthday, I realized I was missing out on life and that I did not want to live like this anymore. So I decided that I was going to figure out how to properly overcome anxiety, and it didn't matter how long it took me or what I had to do. I made a decision that I was going to figure out how to quiet my mind, send my body the message that it could also feel calm, and get control of my life once and for all without medication or doing any more band-aid solutions that wouldn't get to the root problem. And that's when I started the journey that got me to where I am today, here with you, sharing my approach to anxiety that I would do with my clients so that they can skip over years of trial and error and the struggle that I went through so they can just get over anxiety and start to feel better. And it was that decision that led to figuring out that what I had been doing for all of those years was almost completely wrong. And I'm just so grateful that I made that decision to invest in myself. I would probably or definitely still be trying all of these different random things, spinning my wheels, and going through the cycle of temporary relief and then feeling awful again. And so one of my favorite quotes, like Oprah says, when you know better, you do better. Guys, I think there's somebody, never mind. Somebody's mic is unmuted, but I just muted it. Okay, cool. So here's the thing is that even though I'm now able to deal with stressful things without it turning into anxiety, it took me a lot of years to figure it out. I had to unlearn everything I thought was the right thing to do because I quickly discovered how unhelpful they were. I had to test out different approaches, ones that were scientific, ones that were alternative, and I had to see what worked for me. And I kept struggling. There were points where I felt like none of the things I was trying to do were working. And I wish that somebody could just tell me what to do without having to spend so much time and energy learning, studying, testing, and trying to figure it all out. It took a lot of time and patience, and there was no way I could have arrived at what I now call the calm mom method without having invested in my professional education with my master's in social work, my education in holistic nutrition, and multiple trainings and certifications in mindfulness and mental health. So obviously it was a long road, but I was fully committed to figuring it out, and I was not going back to my old ways. So what I discovered through all of the trial and error, that it wasn't that I was a permanently anxious person or that I didn't try hard enough or that I needed medication. I discovered that none of these things were helpful. I figured out that I had what I call worry pathways, and we're going to talk about these some more, running through my brain and body, and that was the root cause of my anxiety. So once I started to address changing these worry pathways, everything changed for me. And I want to share with you how I did all of that so that you can skip over all of the trial and error too. Because there actually is a very specific way to overcome anxiety without spending endless hours in a medical office or reading 5,000 self-help books, spending money on a billion different essential oils or meditation app subscriptions, and basically just doing all of the things but not reaching your goals. Okay, guys, so tell me if you want to know more about these worry pathways. Would that be useful to you? Let me know in the comments, in the chats. Okay, yes. Okay, got a few yeses, so that sounds good. All right. So here we go to the 3 concepts, guys. So we're going to talk now about the root cause of anxiety. So I want to start by explaining the mistakes I made so that this concept makes sense. As you heard from my story before of anxiety, I was doing a lot of stuff at once. So doing too much was causing me a lot of stress. But that wasn't all of it. My self-care was neglected, so my health started to fall off, which meant that both my body and my brain weren't getting what they needed from just a physical, biological standpoint to function properly. My hormones were starting to get off balance. My digestive system was definitely off, and my mood was affected even just by that, by the fact that physically I didn't feel good. And that still wasn't even all of it. I felt like I had to be perfect at everything. I worried that people would judge me if I wasn't, or that somehow I was unworthy. And these things came from my mind. They weren't actually true. I didn't have to be perfect. People probably weren't judging me. And even if they did, another person wouldn't care if they were being judged, but I did care. So you can see that I had a few things going on. My situation at the time was stressful. My physical health was lacking. And my mind was not seeing and perceiving things in a healthy way. So all of these factors worked together to cause my anxiety. It wasn't just one thing. So my mistake in trying to heal my own anxiety was trying all of these approaches that always targeted either one thing or the other, but nothing ever worked on all of those levels. There was always something missing. So no wonder I wasn't getting better. Okay. All right. If you're going to remember one thing from this presentation only, then I want to ask you to remember this diagram. This is what we call the biopsychosocial model of mental health. So in this case, right now, we're going to use it to help us understand anxiety because we're talking about that a lot. But we can use this model to understand mental health in general as well. And when I say that, I mean your mood, your emotions, all that sort of thing. Okay. So I'm going to explain this to you. We have at the top these are your biological factors that come together to influence mental health. So what are things that are biological? Obviously, like how our physical health is doing. Do we have any illnesses? Are we sick a lot? Do we have diabetes or some other health condition? Our nutrition, does our body have literally what it actually needs just on a basic level to work the way that we want to? And we know now that nutrition also plays a role in our mood. If our brain doesn't have certain things, then it's not going to transmit signals the way that we want. That can affect things as well. Genetics, so if somebody in our family has a history, then that could sort of play a role. Our hormones, so this is where, yes, if you are postpartum, then that can play a role. But this is also why, as you can see, that that's just one thing, okay, in a big picture. So then you can obviously see that some overlap. And so stressors, like there might be physical health stressors, like for example, not getting enough sleep because you have a newborn that wakes up a lot. That's a physical stressor. But there could also be psychological stressors. So not getting enough sleep might also make you feel more psychologically stressed too. Okay. So other psychological factors, this is our beliefs about ourselves and the world. And this is what I was telling you before, beliefs that we have to be perfect, beliefs that we are maybe going to be abandoned somehow, belief that we are somehow not good enough, lacking confidence in ourselves, stuff like that. Our coping skills, maybe we just don't have what we need to actually be able to cope with stress as it comes in. And I say just, that's just, like I said, one thing of a big picture. For example, is like if everything else on here was sort of good and you just didn't have great coping skills, you probably still wouldn't be having like trouble with mental health or your mental well-being. You wouldn't be really struggling because it's just one thing in a big picture. Your self-worth, if you've had any trauma in the past. So we don't need to go through all of these. I think you guys are getting the idea. And lastly is our social and environmental. So that's where I was talking about what is happening right now. So obviously right now, this bubble is a huge one because COVID is happening and it's been happening for a long time. And it is putting a lot of, here's a stress in the social environmental, right? It is putting a huge amount of stress on us because our current situation is not very stable. There's a lot of stress, there's a lot of uncertainty. But also to add is that what if we're lacking a support system? And a lot of people are really isolated right now. They don't have the support that they normally would because of that. And they maybe didn't have a great support system in the first place. So the Western society does not have enough support in general for moms. So this one is always going to be like a weak spot. Maybe you have like cultural norms that sort of say that you should be, like don't talk about feelings, don't ask for help, things like that. Relationships, maybe things are stressful with a spouse or partner, so that would fall into here too. Okay. So what we're trying to do with this diagram is show that the biopsychosocial model is used to show the importance of all of these different factors coming together to influence mental health, not just one. Okay. So what that model tells us is that anxiety and mood is not just from your postpartum hormones. Your hormones are not fully to blame. And that's very obvious. If you go back to this diagram, it's just literally one thing. When you have a baby, obviously this one is going to be a little bit more. There are a lot of hormonal changes, but that one thing in itself is not enough to tip the scale. There has to be other things, like your support system is really lacking, and people culturally are all telling you like that you should be able to do this. And maybe you have some past childhood trauma or also are lacking coping skills. Physically, maybe you had a really challenging birth. Like that is how it works. Your hormones are not broken. And obviously, as you can tell, I get really angry when I hear that being suggested to people. Yeah. It's also not a chemical imbalance only in your brain. It has to happen from some of those other things too. So it's the interconnection between all of those things that comes together to create what I call the perfect storm. Okay. Nobody knows exactly how much of each factor will cause it because no two people's situation is exactly the same. Everyone has different genetics, a different childhood, different experiences. Even identical twins who share so much have different personalities and different life experiences. So one twin could get anxiety or some other type of like emotional struggle, and the other one might not. So the most important thing to remember is that anxiety is not caused from any one thing. It is caused from many things coming together. Okay. That is one of the most important things I want you guys to hear in this program. I'm just going to get a drink of water. Are you guys still with me? Let me know in the comments. I see a bunch of people are still here. That's awesome. Just let me know. Type yes if you're still here. And I'm not just looking at your name. Yes, yes. Okay. People are still with me. All right. So this is a really important picture. I pull this picture up when I'm working with my paid clients. So pay attention to this one because this is why we're here today for this information. So over time, because of how those three factors, the biopsychosocial, mix together, our system becomes really, really strong and smart at communicating with itself in an anxious way. So neural connections, those are cells in our body that run down from our brain, like a neural cell starts in our brain, but it goes down through our spine and into our nervous system. And that's what you see this little diagram here. Here's our little friends with their brain and their little spinal cord. And then you can see nerves. Whoops. Oh, I can't use this mouse for that. Nerves go all the way through our entire body, through our little fingertips. That's why when we touch something, we pull it back and say, ow, that's a nerve. That is a neural cell, okay? They run all the way through our body. And these neural cells communicate with each other and become really efficient at telling our system that it needs to be anxious and worried. And that's a good example of why people get physical symptoms, because the nervous system and stress is traveling through these neural pathways, creating these worry pathways and ending up in a different place, causing a physical problem. Okay. So I'll take you over to this left one here, and you'll see, I don't know what that yellow line is, how that got there. I may have highlighted. Can you see how there's like thick lines? Like here's a really thick one, and here's a thick one. But then in the background, there's more like lighter, thin ones. So what those are is the neural cells sort of clustering together, and they're becoming really, really strong. So let's say your information in the brain and the nervous system, you would basically come down and you would latch on to one of these really thick, strong ones. And that's the way you would travel. See how I'm kind of like, I think you guys can see my cursor. You wouldn't like, the information doesn't come in and sort of like go, like which one should I take? Oh, that one's broken. It's not really that good. I got to go over here. Like, no, it takes the fastest, easiest route, right? And that is basically how our worry pathways are developed. It's because we basically, so the thick neural connections are that way because they've been used basically like a muscle that's been worked out at the gym for years and years. Okay. So the mistake that I made and the problem with most anxiety treatments is that I always took an approach that only focused on either my mind with therapy, for example, or my physical body using aromatherapy or exercise or something like that. And every single approach was incomplete. None of them took into account the perfect storm, the root cause of anxiety, which is the biopsychosocial model, and the understanding that anxiety comes from different places all at once. And because of that, the only thing that will truly work is an approach that acts on those different parts as well. So basically, what needs to happen is these strong worry pathways need to be rewired. Okay. Which, by the way, is totally possible. So let's move on to concept 2. Let me know in the comments. Are you guys still with me? Why? So these are the things that we're going to talk now about what doesn't work. Why vitamins, sleep, essential oils, things like that, why they won't work and what will. Okay. So at first, I thought that things would get better after I started getting better quality sleep. But once I did, the anxiety wasn't gone. Okay. It felt less bad, but it was still there. I then thought that reading those self-help books would give me more answers, but all they did was give me a short burst of motivation, basically followed by no real change, which then made me feel more frustrated and made me feel worried that I would be stuck with this forever. I was literally anxious about my anxiety. Then I thought if I cut out inflammatory foods and foods that I was sensitive to, and maybe if I balanced my hormones, that would get rid of it. And those things helped for a little while, but inevitably I would return back to my baseline. And the reason that none of these things worked is because anxiety had literally changed my brain and my body. Over the years, I had created new default anxiety pathways or worry pathways in my brain and body that told me that I needed to worry about everything. So because being anxious was my new normal, it was now automatic. It happened unconsciously, and only something that could get to the source would change that. And this is why none of the one-off things I tried for so many years helped. They didn't get to the source. None of them had the power by themselves to change those worry pathways that were automatically communicating with each other, basically whether I liked it or not. So you guys can see it's not your fault as well. If you've been trying things and they haven't worked yet, you aren't broken. It's just that none of the things you tried were a complete enough approach to really get to the root of anxiety. Okay. So, here's the not great thing is that, and I just have to be honest, I can't tell you how many times I hear once I start getting some sleep, my anxiety will be better. Or I just need a vacation. Or once my job changes, it will be better. And I want to be clear, these things are important. I need my sleep and I'm a mess without it. if I skipped a vacation, I start getting cranky until I get that break. And I also think that staying in unhappy situations over a long period of time is not healthy for anyone. But as you've now learned, because anxiety comes from all of those places to create a perfect storm, just getting more sleep or even the best vitamin or fantastic vacation will not change the bigger picture of what's going on between your brain and your body. You might feel better because you have sort of worked on one of those things, but that feeling never lasts because other areas are still unattended to. And this is how anxiety tricks us, by the way. It makes us think that it's gone, but then when times get hard or another stressful situation happens or we get less sleep, boom, it's back. And so because you can imagine, like, okay, if you start getting more sleep, if we go back to this right here, like say that was a stressor, then you're going to feel better. And maybe this whole picture is a little bit lighter. But then something else changes, like all of a sudden COVID hits and you're really right back where you were. Or all of a sudden something else happens where you get really sick and now you're anxious again. Or some other stressor happens, like finances, somebody gets laid off, and then anxiety is back. So this is the thing, guys. This picture is really, really important in understanding why anxiety and mood sort of goes up and down. It's when one of these things changes, we feel better, but we have to, if we want to approach it from a long-term permanent perspective, if we want to change these brain pathways so that we're not constantly using these anxious worry pathways as our default anymore, then we have to take an approach that works on all of these areas in a sort of simultaneous way. Okay? So a big mistake that I made was just waiting that things would get better, like once this happened or once that happened. And I just spent longer and longer and longer and longer not feeling better. And I lost a lot of time, right? Like I could have been feeling better a lot sooner. So this picture says so much to me. It shows the vulnerability of both the mom and the baby and how important they are to each other. That baby needs her mama to be healthy so that they can keep growing this bond that exists literally nowhere else on earth. Motherhood is a particularly vulnerable time for anxiety to come out because if you had any of those other pre-existing factors, like maybe genetics, or maybe you learned in your life before that you don't do well with the unknown, or maybe you have a deep down belief that bad things will happen, or that you're a perfectionist. And then you add on actual physical brain changes that happen when we become mothers that make us become like a mother bear for the safety of our offspring. Then tack on any birth trauma or difficult postpartum or a sick child, the difficulty nursing, add all of those things. Then we add on even more that new motherhood is a time where we might be triggered by things that remind us by what our childhood was lacking, things that we want to do better or differently. So we add more pressure on ourselves. So if you go back again to look at anxiety from the biopsychosocial model, you can see that early motherhood is an extremely vulnerable time for anxiety to appear. We just threw way more of those causes into the weather to make a storm. Okay. So if you guys are still with me, let me know in the comments if you're still here, if you're still listening. We are sort of rounding the corner and getting towards the last concept, which is now you know about the pathways, you know about what doesn't work and why. So I'm guessing you might want to know how to get rid of these worry pathways and make new ones. So let me know in the comments if you're ready for this part, if this is something you want to know. Personally, obviously, I think it's the most important part. Okay, so Yes, yes, people are good. Okay. I'm gonna drink some more water. Somebody is drawing on my screen. Is that me? That's so funny. Um, okay. So, I mean, it has to be me, right? So weird. I didn't touch anything. Okay. Let me know, you guys, you're still with me for concept number 3. This is what works to rewire the worry pathways. So once I figured out that there were multiple causes of my anxiety coming together to create my own perfect storm, and that this had literally wired my brain and body with these anxious neural pathways or these worry pathways that were now automatic default to me, I realized why nothing I did worked. It was because I only approached one thing or the other, and I never really worked on my entire self at once, even though all of myself was being affected at once. And I also never did it in a methodical, purposeful way. I was kind of just like trying one thing, trying another thing. And because of this, I was not able to rewire those pathways. Because all of these random one off things I was trying weren't working, and that was because I would always have at least one root cause of anxiety completely uncared for and working against me. My anxiety or worry pathways were always still running there in the background. So I evaluated everything that I learned in over 15 and now almost 20 years of education and training, but 15 years at the time. I took what I knew were the best approaches from psychotherapy that were scientifically proven to treat anxiety, and I combined them with what science says the body most needs to stop having a stress response to things that didn't need to be stressful, so that I could actually rest when I wanted to feel rested after, so that my brain could get the nutrition it needed to do what I wanted it to do. Then I took mindfulness practice and weaved it through the entire thing, because mindfulness, when you practice it in a certain way, acts on both the mind and the body. And once I did all of these 3 things, I took care of myself like a whole being, not just a brain and not just a body. Things started happening. I started being able to focus on one thing at a time without my mind going in 20 different places. I stopped waking up in the middle of the night thinking of all the things I had to do the next day. I stopped feeling afraid of what would happen if I did something, and I just did it because I made a decision and I stopped thinking about it after. I started to consider my response to things before just reacting, which helped my relationships immensely. And I regained my confidence, which basically was life changing. It helped me with everything. And I just felt better because I felt confident in myself and I didn't have to overthink every decision that I was making. So that's what we were talking about here on the slide. Yeah, when we add in psychotherapy with the brain part, with some of the body part, and mindfulness, which is the full experience, mindfulness also helps us accept and deal with. It gives us new coping strategies. It helps us deal with current stressors and the situational stuff. So you put all of this together, we actually grow new brain body pathways, which is so amazing. So I want to tell you about how important and effective mindfulness-based interventions are. And that's a word we use in psychotherapy. So a mindfulness-based intervention is something that is done, it's like mindfulness, but done in a very specific way to intervene or interrupt something that is not going so well and start sort of turning things in a more positive direction. So that's what a mindfulness-based intervention is. We know that people have been practicing mindfulness for centuries, but only in the last 3 decades have we started studying it scientifically. So we know that this is the coolest thing ever. We know that when mindfulness is practiced with a very specific methodology, it literally changes the structure and the function of the brain. So mindfulness used in a specific way, in a specific order, to achieve a specific mental health or mental well-being goal. And when I say so, like that it changes the structure and the function. So what they found, and this is like pieces of a brain in an MRI machine, is that they found like literally structure. Okay. So the way that the actual brain looked in the MRI before a mindfulness based intervention versus after was different. It literally grew new brain matter. So it grew new pathways that we were talking about, which is totally wild and crazy to me. So that's the structure that changed, but then the function changed as well. So it's not only what the brain was doing before, it was now afterwards doing something different. So this is another thing that mindfulness, and a specific mindfulness done in a certain way in a specific order for a specific mental health goal can do, is change the way that your brain works as well. And if you think about the fact that it was always working sort of on this automatic worry default, then how amazing would it be if it literally learned how to function in a whole different way? So what I'm showing you here is mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, which is a particular kind of mindfulness that's combined with therapy, hence the name. And it's specifically used for people with anxiety, depression, low mood, or sort of like up and down moods, stuff like that. So like one minute you're fine, but the next minute you are bawling your eyes out, things like that. Or like one minute you feel happy and the next minute you're like raging. So that's sort of mood, right? And MBCT, mindfulness based cognitive therapy, is specifically effective with that. So I've just popped up a bunch of different studies for you that are showing that mindfulness-based cognitive therapy is more effective than regular treatment, meaning like a different type of therapy. It is equally effective or better than medication. Like what? Um, and it helps to reduce the risk of anxiety, depression, mood, things like that ever coming back. So that's we call that, it reduces the risk of relapse, meaning this is how we change it from the source, right? This is how it's not just like a one-off thing where you feel better now, but then you feel bad again later. When we do this stuff, when we actually do the mindfulness in this specific way and we change the structure and the function of our brain and our nervous system, it stays that way. What? I know. I'm probably more excited than you guys, but I just think it's the craziest thing. And I've just seen it over and over again with myself, with the moms that I work with. It's just an amazing thing. So this is just another slide with just more just study after study after study that I wanted to show you about how useful it is for all of these different things. You can see here it's been good for bipolar. Then it's good for like regular like here anxiety, emotion regulation. So that means like just not snapping for no reason. You can regulate that better. You just feel more calm, more even. It helps things with working memory. Like, so if you can't remember anything, it helps with that. Spatial memory, verbal fluency, like it just goes on and on. Here's one, and this is specifically, I use it a lot for perinatal anxiety. So anxiety for moms during the sort of pre and post birth time. And by the way, postpartum in my books lasts as long as you're not sleeping through the night. So you could be postpartum for 2 years or more. Okay, we'll keep it moving for you guys. So, need a drink of water. By the way, feel free, pop any questions that you have into the box. I do have like a Q&A time at the end, but I'm happy to also answer anything if something comes up to you, and I'm still watching the chat box. So let me know if you're still there, and feel free to ask any questions. Okay. So science also shows that our mental health is drastically impacted by diet and exercise. I call it movement, in a variety of ways. And we also know that as mothers, our physical body takes a massive hit while we put ourselves on the back burner for everyone else. By doing that, we are not helping our anxiety. It is basically crucial in order to work on our mood and our anxiety in a complete way that gets to the source, that we support our body to repair from all of the stress and the wear and tear and depletion from carrying babies, potentially feeding them and giving them life from our body, losing sleep, and months and years of stress. And motherhood right now, I would say, could not get more stressful. Also, by the way, you guys, studies are showing right now that the majority of the burden as a result of COVID is also falling on mothers more than fathers. So these are just some studies showing how like gut bacteria influences your behavior, your emotions, your thinking. Here's just some more. Yoga is a treatment now for anxiety and in depression, like it helps. Diet can affect the likely link between food and your brain. So I just put these up there so you guys can see that what I'm talking about, it's not out of nowhere. It's grounded in scientific evidence that shows that all of these things do make a difference, but you can't just do one or the other, or you're going to be still sort of feeling unwell in one of the other spots. Okay. So the main difference is that nobody is putting it together. Everyone separates the things that need to be done together because they happen together. They work together to cause anxiety. So, doesn't it make sense that we need to work on them together to overcome anxiety? So, the head heart hormone approach, or what I now call the calm mom method, you've seen me mention that, is what I created that finally healed my anxiety properly by using psychotherapy in combination with mindfulness interventions and in combination with nutrition and movement to literally rewire my worry pathways. And the best part is that it's all grounded in scientific research. So it's not just me saying that it works, it's actually been studied and proven to work. Okay. So I want you to say goodbye to your old worry, stressing pathways, because once you have the calm ones, they will always be there for you. They literally never go away. That's why this is so good. And that is what happens when you get to the source of things. You do it once, you do it properly, and you literally change your brain body pathways forever. So here's the thing. Don't get mad at me. Stressful times will happen again. That I can guarantee you. So wouldn't you want those calm pathways to be the ones that are your default? I want you guys to think back to my anxiety story. The worst of it was all before I became a mother. It was because I had not just new, but strong, calm brain body pathways that when I became a mom, I was able to recognize that anxiety might be trying to creep in and turn it around before it did. So back a few years ago, when I finally applied this calm mom method or this holistic approach, that is when I was able to grow these new calm brain body pathways. And they've continually served me over and over again, even when I was in the most vulnerable time, which is as a new mom, postpartum, and even now still going in through this last while of COVID and changes and loss in work. We lost our nanny who was a member of the family, and still anxiety is not back. It's not been easy, but it's not back. I'm in the driver's seat of my life, and so are the moms that I work with who do the calm mom method. So that's another really cool thing, is that I've got to see it over and over and over again for myself work. Okay, so we're going to do just a quick review of the core concepts just to make sure that we've got it all. And I'm watching the comments, guys, still. If you have a question or you need clarification, pop it in there, okay? So point number one, you learned that about the biopsychosocial model of mental health, and you learned that anxiety and mood isn't created from just one thing. It's a combination of many things that come together to create the perfect storm. And no two perfect storms are the same. So it's impossible to ever predict or know for sure if it will happen or if it won't. And it's not your fault. In this part, you learned that an approach that doesn't take into account the different things that cause anxiety just won't get to the source, which is those worry brain body pathways. So if you wait to see if it will get better, it might be a really upsetting discovery a few years down the road that it never really did get better. The anxiety just kind of slowed down, but then when it attached itself to the next stressful event that happened. So people, including myself, I admit, for a very long time, try and fail and feel frustrated and eventually think that this is part of who they are, which is false. But a holistic approach that does take into account the biopsychosocial causes of anxiety, one that acts on the brain body pathways, will help. Okay. And in order to really conquer anxiety, you have to rewire your brain body pathways so that the old anxious ones, those thick ones that we saw, aren't your default anymore, but instead, those thick ones are calm, confident, and in control pathways. And that those are now your first line of responding to things. Those are the things that manage stress and basically dictate how you think and feel and live in the world. It does it all for you on its own, automatically in the background. So we do this by using the Calm Mom method that combines psychotherapy with nutrition, movement, and mindfulness in a very specific way that supports all of the aspects of you because you're a whole person. This way of getting rid of the anxious brain body pathways and make new ones is extremely powerful. This is the exact method that I used. I use it with all my clients to help them overcome anxiety and feel better with their mood without endless hours in a office or without even cutting out caffeine or reading all the books or doing whatever else you do not have the time and energy for, because I definitely do not. Okay. So you guys came here today because you want to feel more calm, in control, and present with your children without taking up a ton of time you don't have. You want a clear and comprehensive path to overcome anxiety without resorting to medication or band-aid solutions. Or maybe you want to get off medication sometime in the future. You want to stop being stuck in your head and thinking something bad is going to happen. And you want to be able to finally quiet your mind so that you can get some rest. You want to feel more energetic so that you can be present with your children and not miss the moments that you have with them thinking about other things, right? So at the beginning of this training, guys, I made you a promise. I promised that I would explain to you how you can shift away from feeling exhausted and overwhelmed and anxious and up and down moody, to feeling in control and confident and calm with your children so that you can be the mother that you know you are deep down. Maybe she's just having trouble right now. She's struggling, and a lot of people are. And so that you can show up the way that you always thought you would and the way that you always wanted to. So here's the thing I want you to remember. Everything I shared with you today, it's not a random theory. It's not some idea that I think might work for you. Everything I walked you through today works. It worked for me. It works for the mamas that I work with who all started from a similar spot that you are in right now. And most importantly, as you saw, there's a huge amount of science backing it all up. I'm not different, and the moms I work with aren't different. We all have really busy lives. We are all in this crazy pandemic world. We all now are with babies or children to raise. We all are trying to be a good spouse or partner. We have jobs maybe that we need to perform at. And so if I can do it, and if the people that I worked with before can do it, then I'm very confident that you can do it too. You already know now that you can overcome anxiety as long as you have a plan to follow, basically, as long as you're approaching it from the right perspective and potentially some accountability. So you are really off to the races now. You're basically halfway there. So now you have power because you have knowledge. Knowledge is power. Best saying ever, right? And it's true. You have the power to change your situation if you choose to. You have options. So you may have heard either in an email or in the Facebook group me mentioning Braving Wild Motherhood. I'm not sure if you have, but this is an anxiety and basically mood program that uses the Calm Mom method I told you about, that comes with a proven system, accountability, and support. So that program is the main way that I help moms like you manage and overcome anxiety, as well as the things we talked about, the extra things like improving emotional IQ, building resilience, managing stress effectively, having a more stable mood, and I want to say most importantly, learning how to role model these things for our children. So, question for you guys, do you want me to share a little bit more about the program? If you want, I can do that. I basically feel like my job is to educate and inform you so that you can take care of your mental health with as little struggle as possible. So let me know in the comments. You guys are all still here, which is awesome. Everyone's hanging in. Let me know if you feel like that would be helpful. And if it is, then I can share that with you. Then what we're going to do is I will give you that free guide that I mentioned. We'll do a little bit of Q&A. We can do that interactively. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, cool. I'll definitely share that for you guys then. And then I actually have a special little announcement at the end as well for whoever's still here. Okay. So on that note, what I thought would be the best way to help you is by offering a personal sort of support to each of you. So what I've done is I actually thought it might be good if I set aside some time over the next 10 days to speak with any of you that I haven't already personally about how I can support you to apply the concepts that we talked about today so that you can get on your way to feeling calm and in control and present. So in that call, we can explore if Braving Wild Motherhood might be a good fit for you. And we can explore that, and we can see in what I call an anxiety-free consultation call. The part that I love is that in that call, that's actually 45 minutes, which is, I think, a lot considering most other therapists give you 10 minutes. You will gain a lot of confidence because you'll be able to see how this framework that we've been talking about, how it works so well that I think you might be like, you guys should be charging this as a session. Here's the thing. I'm not the only psychotherapist out there. There are lots of people doing it, which is great. My skills specifically are working with mothers struggling with mood and anxiety and who want to heal it from the source holistically, but properly. So they want to get at it from the source without more band-aid solutions. They want to either not go on medication or be supported in their process so they can eventually go off medication. And they don't want to take up a ton of time that they don't have. You guys have heard now, I transformed my own life and so many other moms' lives. I'm very fortunate and grateful to be able to say that. So here's what I suggest to do next. So we can have that person, so I can personally support you. I'm going to post a link in the chat box, and I'm going to post it to everyone if I do it properly. I'll also post it again. And then you can go ahead and schedule that call. And like I said, I just added some extra spots for the next 10 days. I run my practice part-time because I am also part-time home with my daughter. So I just added these extra spots for me to talk to basically you guys who came to this webinar today only to see how I can personally help you with the stuff that we talked about and to talk about Braving Wild Motherhood, see if that's a fit or not for you. Okay, so I'm going to post that in 1 second. So here's what it will look like just to make it not be overwhelming and like one more thing that you have to figure out. It's super simple. Once you click the link, then you land in my online schedule. You just click book now. It will pop up a calendar. Just pick a time that seems good. Then you'll get an email confirmation. Make sure that you put it in your calendar. And that's basically it. The only thing I ask from you guys is that if you book this call that's free, please show up because, like I said, there's only a few extra spots and I'm taking time away from my family and stuff to be able to help and support you. And if you don't use that spot, I know that somebody else will. So that's really my only caveat. That's all I ask of you. And if for some reason you see it and you can't find a spot, let me know and just email me and I will find you a spot. Okay. I'm not going to let you sort of flounder without that. I actually thought I had the link offhand, but I don't have it right here. So hold on. It's right here. Let me just pop that up for you. Of course. Okay. So I'm putting that link in the chat box now. So it's right there for you guys. Okay. So if I just really encourage you, book it. There's no pressure. It's for us to talk. It's for me to see how I can help you. Okay. So now that you've seen how to schedule it, I want to cover some specifics. On the call, I'm going to help you basically make a plan for overcoming your struggles with your anxiety, if that's what your struggle is with. So we'll be able to get really clear on what your specific goal is and why you want it, any obstacles and challenges that would derail your success, any self-sabotage that might be happening. We might be able to zero in on that. And then together we can make decisions on if this group or something else would be right for you. So by the time the call is over, you will leave with a helpful plan to propel your success. Let me know, guys, in the comments, does that seem like it might be helpful for you? Let me know because I'd love to know if I'm going to talk to any of you. That'd be super awesome. There's a bunch of people still here. Yeah, okay. So here's the thing. It's 100% free of charge. I'm guessing you might be thinking there maybe is a catch. First off, the call is free because this is basically my mission in life. Literally, my life's work is to support moms to have healthy minds in a way that doesn't involve medication. It doesn't have to, or doesn't take up an unrealistic amount of time. I just have a core belief in my practice where I need to offer value to you first. So I start off just by helping you with this webinar and with that phone call. Secondly, I know that there are a lot of you listening that want more personalized support and accountability. So if you are somebody who knows that in order for you to succeed, you need support and accountability, then that's awesome. We can discuss that and we can discuss next steps on a call to determine if you're a right fit for Braving Wild Motherhood, because I always want to make sure that you're a good fit for it and it's a good fit for you. Okay. And if it's not, it's totally okay. You'll just still leave the call with so much value and we will get to talk and I'll get to know you and I'll be grateful for that. And then we'll be friends instead of just acquaintances. So there are some limitations. This call is not for you if, I'm very sorry, but if you live outside of Canada, I'm only allowed right now to sort of give recommendations and talk to people in Canada, but I still want you to hang out and get support in the Facebook group. It's not for you if you're not interested in mindfulness or nutrition or mind body health, because we've been talking about that a lot. And obviously, as you can tell, that I believe that that is paramount to getting to the root cause. So if that doesn't resonate for you, it's no problem. I just wouldn't do the call. If you are looking for something like super quick and easy, then I would say this probably isn't for you, because no therapeutic process is easy. If you are not able to be patient or gentle with yourself, or if you are not open-minded to learning new things, it's probably not for you either. So I know that this works. I've shown you the scientific studies, many of them. I have done it with myself, and because of all of that and the work that I do with my clients, we see success over and over and over again. But the moms that I work with are committed to their goals as well. So the first step at this point is just to schedule a consult call. If you're somebody who wants to overcome anxiety and feel like you're ready to commit to working on yourself, then I would say this call is for you. Okay. And it's for you, like I said, if you live in Canada, if you're open to mindfulness, nutrition, and mind body health, if you know that the road to success isn't straight, but you're committed to your recovery and you're committed to feeling better. It's for you if you are open to being taught, if you are willing to do the work, and you want accountability and support. And it would be a good call for you if you are ready to start taking charge of your anxiety and your well-being, and if you want to get the joy of your motherhood back. So, excuse me. So if that's you, if you're somebody who wants to sidestep those obstacles that we used to hold you back, then make sure you schedule that. Like I said, I didn't put a whole bunch of spots in. I just am doing my best in the next 10 days. So even if you tried therapy or meditation and it hasn't worked, or even if you don't have lots of extra time or you don't have childcare at your fingertips, it still works. This works for you because it's based on the Calm Mom method, and it has science backing it, and it cares for you like the complete person you are. And it includes support and accountability that traditional therapy doesn't. So there are nuances that only someone who specializes in maternal anxiety can help you with, because there are many other factors involved in your healing that traditional anxiety treatment doesn't account for. For example, that your baby might need to be breastfed every 1 to 2 hours, so you can't go far from your baby for very long. Or that you don't sleep through the night, so it's very hard to get the energy to leave the house, to go to a therapist's office, or to focus on things. Or maybe you're somebody that believes in alternative approaches and you've tried some of those, but you know deep down that you need something more than that. So all of these things make a difference to your success. I know because I'm a mom too. I felt the challenges firsthand. So guys, head over to that calendar if you haven't already. The link is in the chat box. Book that spot, because there's a big difference between trying to figure this out on your own or talking with a professional who knows how to guide you to your goals. I say this a lot to people, like, we're all kind of guilty of it, but like you wouldn't do your own dental work, right? So why do we think that we can do our own, like work on our own mental health as well, right? Okay, so we're almost done. I'm going to give you your stay till the end bonus. Yay. And then we can just, if you want to stick around, we can do some Q&A. And then I have a super special announcement for you if you guys want to hear it. So here's the link I promised you. Yay. Oh, I can never highlight the whole thing. Your guide to, my mouse keeps running out of space. your guide to how to not be angry mom. This is a helpful one, so I strongly suggest downloading that. Here you go. That's there for you. Why do I feel like I live outside? Okay. So, Emily, stay for a little bit longer because there's something else that I want to tell you instead. Okay. I hope that this is working. Let me know. Hopefully that link works. So yeah, Emily, don't go anywhere because I want to tell you one more thing. Okay. And maybe actually I'll skip to that just because I know we're getting low on time and then we can backtrack. So what we have now is basically just some Q&A time. But what I'll do is I'll give you my special announcement. And then for those that are still here, we can circle back to the Q&A. So this is a really big deal for me. I've never done this before, but I feel like with COVID and with all the stuff going on that I wanted to do something more. So what I've done is, and Emily, or for whoever else who is not in Canada, we now have, for the first time ever, a self-study edition of this program of Braving Wild Motherhood, which is going to be available for $100 off until the end of October. So this is the whole Braving Wildhood program, the entire thing, just without the psychotherapy sessions with me. And I really realize I haven't talked to you about how it all works. But I'll put a link up for you so that you can check out more information on it if you think that might be helpful for you. Okay. So I'll put that there. Technically, it's available for anyone if they're just feeling like they want to kind of work on things on their own, then you're welcome to do it on your own with the self-study option. It's literally brand new. I'm just typing it again because everything's so close together. I've never offered it before this way, but I am now because there's been so many people asking for the opportunity to do it, people who don't live in Ontario. So in Canada. So I wanted to be able to offer that. And then for the people who, the second part of the announcement is for the people who do go on to do the full program, so that's with sessions with me and you're in Canada, then I'm bonusing you an extra month in the Facebook support group. And that also as well, if you're in Canada and you do that full program with me, is eligible for insurance benefits as well. So if you are, and Emily as well, if you're not sure, really technically, if all of those other criteria things are met, like if you feel like you really are into mindfulness, you really, really want you to know more about this, I'll still have a call with you. So it's okay, book it, and we can work through if you think the self-study option would be good for you as well. But yeah, otherwise you're welcome to just click the link and explore it and see if it's a good fit for you. What else? Okay, guys, we made it. So thank you everyone for staying. I'm just going to keep going with questions and answers. And if you have to drop off, that's no problem. As well, don't forget, I will put it here again, the link to book the call for us to chat. I think that would be probably the most important sort of like next step for you. Okay, so Q&As. For those who are still here and want to hear more about the program. So how is the program set up and what is included if I join? And I can explain the difference as well between the self-study version and the main one. So we're going to talk about the main one first for people in Canada. So the program is made up of 3 components. One is private one-on-one therapy sessions over video with me. The next part is an online learning hub with over 60 holistic nutrition recipes, all of your mindfulness meditation recordings, audio lessons, worksheets. And then there is an optional private Facebook group that I'm in. We have another moderator in to provide you with support and accountability to keep you moving so you don't have to wait a whole week to get simple answers like you would if you were just doing regular therapy. The Learning Hub is basically, to me, the best thing ever because it has everything in one simple place. You don't have to waste time searching through emails for worksheets and meditation links and that kind of thing. It's very clearly laid out. It's very easy to use, and it's yours for as long as the hub exists. So you can go back to it and keep working on things after if you want. And you also heard me mention 60 holistic nutrition recipes. So these are yours to download from the hub as soon as you get access. They are all designed to be anti-inflammatory, no ingredients that people might be sensitive to. So they're gluten-free, dairy-free, refined sugar-free. Oh, you get the idea. So that is how the main program for folks in Canada are. That's what's available for us. For the self-study version, you get all of that except for the psychotherapy sessions and the Facebook group. So you get the online learning hub with all the recipes, all the mindfulness meditations, audio lessons, worksheets. Okay. Okay. Question 2, what do I need in order to be able to do the program? What are the requirements? Honestly, there aren't a lot of requirements. This is meant to be accessible for anyone. Some anxiety treatment programs are very intense and they're not appropriate for everyone, but this one is designed to be safe and gentle and appropriate for anyone. All you need is to have access to the internet, computer, iPad, or phone. If you're doing the therapy sessions, you need to have about an hour for that once every week or every other week for 10 weeks, depending on what we decide. And you need to be able to schedule just a little bit of time, a few days a week, to do some of the home practice. I can't tell you exactly how much time it will be because it just depends on the week. And there aren't any rules to when or where or how you get that time in. So it's meant to be what works for your schedule. Okay. So here's the thing with this program. It essentially cuts out half of therapy sessions by giving you all the information you need at home. So you can do it when you have time on your schedule. You don't need me for that. And then when we come together for therapy sessions, that is when the magic happens. That's when we sort of pull all the things together. So it was literally designed with mothers in mind to be able to get support that they need and get the best support, the most amount of it, in the shortest amount of time. Okay. So another question is, I already do the meditation apps. How is this different? So I think we've kind of covered this in the presentation, but regular mindfulness practice, like what we do in the apps, they can help you relax. It can calm you down in the moment and even help with emotions. But we talked about mindfulness-based interventions, and that's what we use in Braving Wild Motherhood. Those are specifically aimed at relieving symptoms of stress, anxiety, depression, trauma, physical pain, mood. Okay. It has to be the way that we do it with the therapy sessions. It's guided by a licensed practitioner in a very specific way in order to get those results. If you do the self-study, it's basically all still guided. You just you're getting everything that you need. You're just not working with a therapist. Okay. Next question. I don't have any childcare, but I really want to do this. Can I still do it? And the answer is yes, 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 yes. That is the best part of having all this information in the Learning Hub for you to work on your own time when we aren't together. You do it when it's best for you. That way you can take care of your babies while you take care of yourself. Okay. Another question I get asked a lot is, my doctor says I need professional treatment for anxiety. Does this count as that, even though it's holistic? The answer is yes. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker and psychotherapist, and all of the psychotherapy principles we use in the program are evidence-based, meaning they are scientifically proven effective followed properly. So yes, this counts as treatment if you work with me while we do it. Another question people often ask is, I'm taking medication for anxiety already. Can I still do this program? Yes, absolutely. The program does not recommend anything that would interact with your medication. However, obviously, before starting anything new, we recommend just discussing with your healthcare provider before starting. People ask a lot, I'm pregnant, planning to be pregnant or breastfeeding. Is this okay for me? The answer is yes. This program was designed to be gentle, like I mentioned, for any woman at any stage of her motherhood journey. I actually do have a step-up program that a lot of women, after they've done this, go into. But that is for people who really want to sort of dig deeper, either attack stubborn anxiety or maybe sort of heal childhood wounds, trauma, stuff like that. That program is not for you right now. Okay. It might be, but it has to be after you do this, because this is the sort of like the first main stepping stone. This is the most important stuff that everyone needs. Guys, we're pretty much at the end. Do you have any more questions? If you do, pop them in the box here. I have a feeling you don't, or you probably would have already put them on. So what I suggest, like I said, is just feel free to book the call. I'm happy to talk to you. I'd love to get to know you. I'd love to see if we can make a plan for you one way or the other. And don't forget to download your Angry Moms, I hate that name, but yeah, free guide. Okay. And if you guys are interested in knowing more about the self-study option, which I mentioned to you is going for $100 less till the end of October, then there's a link for you to click that as well. Okay, guys, that's it for me. I'm so, so, so happy that you all came, that so many of you stayed to the end. I can't believe it. If you have any more questions too, I'm available by email. You can pop onto the group. And I'm probably going to I decided, post this in the group for about a week or so, maybe less, maybe just a few days, just for some of the people that couldn't stay for the whole time, or maybe people who want to hear a certain part again. So that will be available. And that's it. Thank you guys so, 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 so much for staying. It was a great time. We went way longer than I planned. Like, we've actually been going for almost 2 hours. It's never taken that long. I don't know why. Maybe I talked slow. Anyway, guys, I love you all. I wish you the best rest of your week, and I hope to talk to you soon. Okay? Take care. Bye.